Title: The Unexpected Purchase. The old dusty market was buzzing with chatter. A human named Jake wandered through the narrow alleys, his boots scraping against the metal floor. He was looking for something to bring back home. Maybe an antique, gadget, or a rare food item from one of the alien stalls. Jake stopped at a cluttered corner shop. The sign above read, "Exotic Companions." Curious, he peered inside. The place was filled with odd cages, crates, and tanks. Most held strange alien pets, some with shimmering scales, others with fur that changed color. An old alien merchant, with wrinkled, leathery skin, noticed him. "Ah, human. Looking for a companion?" the merchant rasped. Jake wasn't sure. He didn't really plan on getting a pet. But something about the place intrigued him. Just as he was about to leave, a small crate at the back caught his eye. Inside was a girl, barely taller than his waist. Her skin was a soft, pale blue, and her long, pointed ears twitched as she slept. Jake froze. Was this some kind of joke? A person in a pet shop? The merchant noticed his confusion and shuffled. Over. "Ah, yes, that one. Very rare. She's a smart pet. An advanced species from a distant planet. They're loyal, obedient, and intelligent. A perfect companion." Jake frowned. "She's a pet?" "She looks like a person." The merchant nodded. "Many think so, but she's trained. Very docile. Won't cause trouble." Jake couldn't help but feel uneasy. The girl looked so fragile, curled up in the cramped space. Her clothes were worn and dirty. He took a step closer and her eyes fluttered open, bright, luminous green. She looked at him, confused but curious. "Does she talk?" Jake asked. The merchant hesitated. "Some words. Understands commands." Feeling a pang of guilt, Jake looked back at the girl. He didn't like the idea of leaving her there, treated like an animal. Without thinking too much, he asked, "How much?" The merchant's eyes gleamed. "For you, a good deal. 200 credits. Jake barely had that much on him, but before he could reconsider, he handed over the credits. The merchant unlocked the crate and handed him a thin leash. Jake gently guided the girl out. She stumbled a bit but quickly steadied herself, eyes never leaving his face. As they walked back to his small ship, Jake couldn't help but wonder what he'd gotten himself into. The girl walked silently beside him, clutching his sleeve. Back on the ship, he offered her a seat. "Do you have a name?" he asked softly. She tilted her head, unsure. After a moment, she whispered, "Luna." Jake smiled gently. "Nice to meet you, Luna. I'm Jake." Luna's eyes sparkled at the sound of his name, and for a brief moment Jake thought he saw a hint of a smile. He still couldn't believe what he'd just done, buying a living, breathing alien girl. What kind of life had she endured to end up in that shop? As the ship lifted off, Jake glanced at Luna, who was staring out the window with a look of awe. He couldn't shake the feeling that this unexpected purchase would change his life in ways he couldn't yet imagine. Part 2. Jake couldn't sleep. His mind raced with thoughts of Luna, the strange, gentle alien girl he had just brought aboard. She sat quietly on the floor of his cramped ship cabin, her luminous green eyes fixed on the stars beyond the window. Jake handed her a blanket, but she just looked at it curiously, unsure what to do. He unfolded it and draped it over her shoulders. Luna's fingers traced the fabric and a small, hesitant smile appeared on her face. "You're safe now," Jake whispered, not sure if she could fully understand. Luna looked at him, her ears twitching as if processing his words. Just as Jake was about to speak again, the ship's alarm blared, a proximity alert. He rushed to the cockpit, Luna following cautiously. The radar showed a massive vessel approaching. Jake's stomach sank when he saw the emblem, a notorious slaver ship. He quickly dimmed the lights and cut the engine, hoping they wouldn't notice his small freighter. He motioned for Luna to stay quiet, and she mimicked his crouched posture behind the console. A deep, booming voice crackled over the comms. "Small vessel, identify yourself." Jake's heart pounded. He knew lying wouldn't work. Taking a deep breath, he replied, "This is the civilian ship Starfall, just passing through." Silence. Then, the slaver ship scanned his vessel. Jake held his breath. If they detected Luna's signature, they might take her, or worse. The comms flared up again. "You're clear to go," the voice growled, and the massive ship moved on. Jake let out a breath of relief. He glanced back at Luna, who was still crouched, eyes wide and alert. Realizing the danger had passed, she relaxed a little. Jake sat down next to her, trying to process how close they'd come to being boarded. "That was close," he muttered. Luna seemed to sense his fear, and without warning, she gently touched his hand. Jake looked at her in surprise. For a moment, they just sat there, the vastness of space stretching out beyond the window. In that quiet moment, Jake realized something. Luna wasn't just some pet or exotic companion. She was a living being who understood fear, comfort, and trust. He didn't know what her life had been like before, but he was determined to make sure she never felt like a prisoner again. Part 3 days had passed since Jake brought Luna aboard his ship, and each day she grew a little more comfortable. Luna would follow Jake around, quietly observing as he worked on repairs or prepared meals. She was curious, always watching, always listening. One evening, while Jake was fixing the ship's faulty communication panel, Luna sat beside him, her head tilted. He couldn't help but notice how her expression softened whenever he spoke. Deciding to break the silence, he handed her a small screwdriver. "Want to help?" he asked gently. Luna took the tool, mimicking his movements. Though she wasn't skilled, she watched his hands carefully and tried to copy. After a few minutes, she managed to fasten a small screw, her face lighting up with pride. Jake couldn't help but smile. But their quiet moment was interrupted by a soft humming sound. Jake looked around, confused. Luna's eyes widened, and she pointed at the control panel. The ship's data log was playing an old recording, static at first, then a voice. Subject 42, failed bonding protocol, species incompatible. Return to origin for disposal. Jake froze. Luna's shoulders tensed and she instinctively shrank back. Jake immediately reached over and shut the recording off. He didn't want her to hear any more. "Luna," he whispered, noticing the way her hands trembled. He knelt down to her level, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "It's okay. You're not going back. Not ever." Luna looked at him, confusion and fear mingling in her eyes. He realized she must have understood more of that message than he thought. Jake wanted to know more about her, who she really was, and why someone would treat her like that. But before he could say anything, the ship's radar pinged. Another vessel was approaching, this time a small craft signaling for assistance. Jake hesitated. It could be a trap, but he couldn't ignore a distress call. He glanced at Luna. "Stay hidden," he whispered. She nodded, slipping into the small storage compartment he had prepared as her hiding spot. As the ship docked, Jake prepared for the worst. But when the hatch opened, a lone figure stumbled inside, a human soldier, bruised and bleeding. The man looked at Jake, his expression one of desperation. "Please help me," he rasped before collapsing to the floor. Jake knelt down, checking his pulse, still alive, but barely. Luna peeked out from her hiding place, her eyes wide with worry. Jake knew this was more than just a random encounter. Whoever had attacked this man might still be out there, and Jake wasn't sure if he had just invited more danger aboard. Part 4. Jake quickly dragged the injured soldier to the small medical bay of his ship. Luna hovered nearby, eyes wide with concern. Jake pulled out a med kit, trying to stop the bleeding from a deep gash on the soldier's side. "Who did this to you?" Jake asked, keeping his voice low. The soldier winced, managing to mumble, "Pirates ambushed our patrol. I was the only one who got away." Jake's gut twisted. Pirates rarely left survivors, especially not human soldiers. He worked quickly, disinfecting the wound while the soldier drifted in and out of consciousness. Luna reached out, her gentle fingers brushing the man's forehead. To Jake's surprise, a faint glow appeared around her hand, and the soldier's breathing eased. You can heal?" Jake whispered, astonished. Luna looked at him with a hint of sadness, as if unsure whether she had done something wrong. Jake gave her a reassuring nod. "That's amazing, Luna. You helped him." After a few tense minutes, the soldier stabilized. Jake helped him onto a cot and sat nearby, exhausted. Luna settled next to Jake, her hands nervously clutching the edge of his coat. The soldier stirred, eyes slowly opening. He looked at Jake, then at Luna, confusion flickering in his gaze. "Where am I?" he croaked. "My ship. You were hurt," Jake explained. "I patched you up, but she—" He hesitated, not sure how to explain Luna's strange ability. "She helped too." The soldier frowned, trying to sit up. "I remember the pirates. They wanted something. Data. Classified. Intel from the patrol ship. I barely made it to the escape pod." Jake's pulse quickened. If the pirates were after military data, it meant trouble. He glanced at Luna, who seemed to sense his unease. Just then, the ship's sensors pinged, a proximity alert. Jake bolted to the cockpit, checking the screen. A small pirate vessel had picked up their trail, moving fast. Panic surged through him. They couldn't fight. His ship was unarmed and slow. "We have to hide," Jake muttered. Luna followed him, but the soldier shook his head. "They'll track my signal. They know I'm alive." An idea sparked in Jake's mind. "What if we make it look like you didn't survive? Dump the escape pod and leave a distress signal. It might fool them." The soldier hesitated, but nodded. Jake and Luna hurried to the pod bay. They transferred the soldier to the pod, setting it to eject and broadcast a distress beacon. Before closing the hatch, Jake gripped the man's hand. "Good luck. Hope they buy it." As the pod launched into space, Jake guided his ship on a slow, silent trajectory away from the area. After a few tense minutes, the pirate ship changed course, heading toward the pod. Jake let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He looked at Luna, who still seemed worried. He reached out, patting her head gently. "You did great." Luna's ears twitched happily, and for the first time, Jake felt like he wasn't just protecting her. She was protecting him too. Part 5. Jake couldn't shake the uneasy feeling as the pirate ship veered off. The plan had worked, but it was too close for comfort. He leaned back in the pilot's seat, trying to calm his racing heart. Luna stood beside him, her luminous eyes reflecting his tension. "We need to get out of this sector," Jake muttered. He plotted a new course, hoping to find a safe place to lay low. As he worked, Luna quietly pulled at his sleeve. When he looked at her, she pointed to the small communicator the soldier had left behind. Jake picked it up, noticing the cracked screen. "Looks busted," he sighed. But Luna touched the device and a faint glow spread from her fingertips. The screen flickered to life. Jake stared in disbelief. "How did you—" Luna just smiled faintly. Jake's mind spun with questions, but before he could ask, the communicator beeped. A recorded message played. "Unit Bravo 7 reporting. Coordinates compromised. Pirates in pursuit. Initiating data wipe." The message cut off abruptly. Jake frowned. If the pirates were after data, it had to be valuable, and now it was wiped. He glanced at Luna, who seemed curious but didn't fully understand the danger. Suddenly, the ship's long-range sensors picked up a faint signal, a distress beacon from the soldier's escape pod. Confused, Jake checked the coordinates. The pod should have been far behind by now, but the signal was coming from the opposite direction. Realization hit him like a punch to the gut. "They're tracking us," he whispered. Luna's eyes widened. The pirates must have planted a tracer on the pod or the soldier before he boarded. Without wasting time, Jake searched the ship, Luna following closely. He rummaged through the medkit, blankets, and the soldier's gear. Finally, Luna tugged at his arm, pointing to his jacket. Inside the lining, Jake found a small, blinking device. "Clever," he muttered, prying it loose. He couldn't just throw it out. The pirates might catch on. Instead, he tucked it into a small drone and programmed it to fly toward a nearby asteroid field. Minutes later, the drone launched, and Jake set a course in the opposite direction. He could only hope the pirates would take the bait. Once they were safely away, Jake leaned against the control panel, exhausted. Luna gently touched his arm, her soft voice surprising him. "Safe?" she whispered. Jake managed a weary smile. "For now," he replied. He couldn't help but admire how Luna had stayed calm despite the danger. She was more than just a companion. She was a survivor, just like him. But deep down, he knew this was far from over. The pirates wouldn't stop searching. And the more he learned about Luna, the more he realized she wasn't just any alien girl, she was special. Maybe even more than he knew. Part 6. The ship drifted silently through the endless black of space. Jake stared at the navigation console, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing on him. Luna sat quietly nearby, her eyes distant as if lost in memories she could not share. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered and the power dipped. Jake frowned, tapping controls and checking systems. "Power surge," he muttered. "Must be the damaged circuits." As he moved to the engine room, Luna followed silently. The closer they got, the more Jake noticed her behavior shifting. Her eyes darted nervously, ears flattening against her head. In the cramped engine bay, sparks flew from a broken wire. Jake quickly pulled out his toolkit. But before he could work, a faint vibration ran through the ship. Luna's body tensed and she hissed softly, a sound Jake had never heard from her before. Suddenly, the ship jolted violently. Warning lights blared and the hull groaned. Jake grabbed a support rail, fighting to keep his balance. "What's happening?" Luna demanded, her voice sharper than usual. Jake shook his head, eyes wide. "I don't know. Something's attacking us." Before he could react, the ship's scanners picked up multiple small vessels closing in fast. Pirate drones. Jake cursed under his breath. They had found him again. "We can't outrun them," Jake said, voice tense. "Prepare to defend the ship." Luna's eyes glowed faintly. "I'll help," she said, stepping forward. Jake watched, amazed, as she raised her hands. A soft light shimmered around her fingers, then burst outward in waves that rippled through the ship's systems. The pirate drones faltered, their circuits glitching. "How are you doing that?" Jake asked, astonished. Luna hesitated, then whispered, "It's part of me, something I never wanted to use." The drones, now confused and malfunctioning, began to drift off course. Jake seized the chance, powering the engines back up. "Get us out of here," he ordered. The ship lurched forward, speeding into the dark void. Jake looked at Luna, a new respect forming. "Whatever you are," he said softly, "you're more than a pet. You're my partner." Luna smiled faintly, the first real smile Jake had seen from her. But deep down, he knew the fight was far from over. The secrets she held and the dangers chasing them were just beginning to unfold. Part 7. The ship floated in quiet darkness, drifting far from the last danger. But inside, Jake felt the weight of every choice he had made. The alien girl he never expected, the soldier he saved, and the enemies now hunting them both. Luna stood by the viewport, watching the distant stars. Her eyes shimmered with a strange light, almost like she was speaking without words. Jake stepped closer, feeling a mix of fear and hope. "I don't know what you really are," Jake said quietly. "But whatever it is, it saved us." Luna turned to him, her expression soft but serious. "I am not like others," she said. "I carry a secret, a power that can heal or destroy. I was running from those who want to use me. But you showed me kindness." Jake nodded. "And I'm not going to let them take you. Not ever." Suddenly, the ship's sensors flared. An unknown vessel was approaching fast. The final challenge had arrived. Jake grabbed the controls. "We have to fight or run. What do you want to do?" Luna's eyes glowed fiercely. "Fight," she said, "but not with weapons, with what I carry inside." As the enemy ship closed in, Luna reached deep within herself. A brilliant wave of energy burst from her hands, lighting up the ship's interior and pushing back the dark forces outside. Jake watched in awe as the alien girl became a beacon of hope, not just for him, but for a future where trust could overcome fear. When the battle ended and silence returned, Jake and Luna knew their journey was just beginning. Together, they would face whatever came next, because sometimes the most unexpected purchases change everything. The stars outside flickered like distant fires as Jake and Luna floated through space. The last battle had left them shaken, but alive. Yet something strange was stirring inside Luna, a power she barely understood and a secret that threatened to unravel everything. Jake watched her quietly. "You're different now," he said softly. "Stronger, but also distant." Luna nodded, eyes fixed on the dark horizon. "I feel it," she whispered. "A voice inside me, calling me back, to a place I left behind." Before Jake could ask more, the ship's alarms blared suddenly. A signal intercepted. It was a distress call, but unlike any they had heard before. It came from deep inside forbidden space, a place said to be cursed where no one returned. "We have to find out what's there," Jake said, determination hardening his voice. Luna hesitated. "If we go, I may lose control, or find the truth I'm running from." Jake reached out, taking her hand. "We face it together. No more running." As they set course toward the unknown, the silence between them grew thick with secrets. The next chapter was not just about survival. It was about discovering what made Luna truly unique and what price they would pay to protect it.